What's up, everybody? It's Bonefish coming at you. It's the podcast about indie music, experimental, psychedelic sounds, sonic scapes.
I'm Justin.
I'm Christian. We've been going through Animal Collective's records, and today we've got part 2 of our little Panda Bear series. We kicked off last month with our person pitch deep dives, and today we are talking Tomboy, Panda Bear's rock record, the massively anticipated follow-up to person pitch, and stoked to be joined on today's episode by Ian Grant from the Jokermen pod. Really excellent podcasts about
good music. It's about good music.
It's about good music.
Yeah.
They've gone deep on Bob Dylan, Velvet Underground, and they're currently in the middle of talking about Beach Boys records.
Yeah, like if you wanted to, realize that you've been a Slow Train Coming Dylan fan this whole time, the Jokermen will help you realize that. They kind of excavated the post 1966 Dylan. Definitely got me into like some of the weirder Dylan in like the later 70s and 80s, less unconventional. And now they just launched their 3rd season on the Beach Boys, and that's really exciting. I feel like we're approaching a new wave of Beach Boys reassessment, Beach Boys season. There's like a Disney Plus documentary coming out this month about the Beach Boys. It's like the only authorized documentary they ever done. And there's a book that I think is out as well that's like authorized by the band. I think Brian Wilson and Mike Love and Al Jardine all participated. So that's really cool timing. Obviously, there's a lot of cool connections between the Animal Collective guys and the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
And I kind of talked about that. Yeah, so it's really cool to have one half of the Jokermen mindset joining us to talk Tomboy.
Yeah, I've dipped into some of the Beach Boys stuff they've done, and
tight.
Really, really great stuff from them as usual, but also just crazy to hear. I mean, their first records came out in like the 50s, just so long ago. Like music was, the world was just a different place. Music was certainly.
Yeah, I've been like watching a lot of 60s content and music, and like, yeah, when the Beach Boys came out, it was that innocent feeling still in America, but it kind of felt like something was about to start happening. Just kind of, across the country, politically, artistically. And then, yeah, they went from this boy band to this.
Really a family band, too.
Yeah, family band, boy band, singing about, root beer and hanging out with girls.
Catching waves.
To making, like, really deep, amazing, spiritual, psychedelic music. And I just feel like there's not a lot of bands that have gone from like extreme pop, like they were a boy band, to also being able to make like high art.
Yeah, definitely Animal Collective. I think it's fair to argue they are, within the sort of Beach Boys lineage and, definitely furthering it as well. Also, when we talked to Mark Richardson about Young Prayer last year, he is really articulate about sort of the connection between those two groups and how they sort of. He has a great line about how like Beach Boys transcend their goofy lyrics and Animal Collective transcend their like, I don't know, wackiness by just like this sort of real spiritual sense of music. That's the end result. But
100%. He nailed it. Yeah, there is that spiritual feeling that is shared amongst both groups, and it overcomes. Yeah, whether you might not like other parts of it. That's the stuff that people gravitate toward.
For sure.
Anyway, yeah, the interview was awesome. We got part 1, and then part 2 is on Patreon. If you could spread the word, subscribe, donate what you can. Much appreciated. We love y'all. It's a community.
Yeah, take a peep over patreon.com/bonefishpod. And yeah, we was just saying we've started this little Panda Bear series, except last episode we took a break after just beginning because Sung Tongs had its 20th anniversary. So we did a deep dive on that fantastic record, and then just days later, the band announced that they are doing a reissue on vinyl of Sung Tongs, and also, even more exciting, Sung Tongs live album is hitting wax this October. It's the Sung Tongs live at the Ace Hotel show in L.A.
I was there, baby.
I wasn't, much to my own disappointment, but
it was an all-timer. It was a good one.
Super exciting. I mean, we just were talking on that episode how much the live versions of the Sung Tongs, tunes really need a release. And lo and behold, here they come. We got Kids on Holiday is out streaming now. And dude, if that's any indication of this record, I think it's going to be unbelievable. The Kids on Holiday version sounds so good. Have you listened to it?
Yeah, I listened to it. Yeah, it's awesome. That show was awesome. I don't think it's going to be on the vinyl reissue, but I think digitally there's some songs from that era that weren't on the record that they played live, like Covered in Frogs and
yes,
Tuvin and
I Remember Learning How to Dive.
Yeah, which
Prospect Hummers.
I was hoping there'd maybe be some versions of those that they recorded, or at least maybe some versions that they played from that era, but they probably weren't as well recorded as this show from 2018. But it'll be cool to hear that. Yeah, that show was great. Those songs sounded awesome even 15 years later or whatever.
Yeah, very, very excited. Yeah, so the vinyl, it sounds like, is basically the Sung Tongs songs from the record with the addition of Covered in Frogs.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the digital release, yeah, it looks like will have the whole show, which includes Prospect Hummer, Sea of Light live, the sort of
nice.
proto Genie's Open.
Yeah, exactly. From the last album.
Also, Don't Believe the Pilot.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, Tuvin. So, yeah, really glad those are getting released. Kind of feel like, man, just add that third disc. Let's just get those on wax too. Like,
I know, it's like, why
I'm buying the vinyl. Let's get it all in there.
The heads want it,
Yeah. Also,
the heads want it.
Wouldn't complain if there was a DVD tossed in there as well. Just saying. But no, stoked nonetheless.
DVD, huh? Wow, you still watch DVDs?
Oh, bro, physical media is where it's at.
Yeah, that's cool.
I actually just bought a Blu-ray player because my son peed on my PS4, which was my DVD player.
I tracked down a copy of David Lynch's Wild at Heart, which is not on streaming. I don't think it's ever been on streaming. And I played it on our DVD player. And in the most Lynchian fashion ever, the DVD player exploded, broke in the middle of watching the film. And I never got to finish the film.
Damn. It was a little too wild at heart.
It was a little too wild at heart.
Too wild for the digital heart.
But yeah, also another Animal Collective news. I guess Josh Deacon gave an update about Panda's next solo album, Sinister Grift. And I guess he's saying that it's pretty minimal, that it's just vocals, drums, bass, and guitar. And that
interesting.
I think he described it as sounding like early rock and roll, which is really cool.
Whoa, very intriguing.
Maybe it'll be like a spiritual sequel to Tomboy, kind of, as we will talk about Tomboy's kind of like his rock record in some ways. But
right.
But I guess it's not going to come out until early next year, even though it's done. Domino kind of moves slowly.
Don't like that. Exciting nonetheless. Before we hop into our interview with Ian about Tomboy, thought we'd take a quick minute and introduce new little segment idea we had. Bonefish Recommends. How's that for a name?
Bonefish Rex? Bonefish Rex?
Bonefish Rex. I like that. And you said just an album from the past that didn't come out this year.
Yeah, that's the only rule. So
only rule
is it didn't come out this current year.
Right on. Okay, well, what have you got for us, Justin? Your first submission.
Cool. So I've been listening to this lately. It's by an artist called Jeffrey Cantu Ledesma, and it's called In Summer. It's only 25 minutes long. I guess I would describe this as like shoegaze meets kind of field recordings of like nature, and so it's like kind of like shoegaze ambient, I guess.
Wow, that's cool.
This guy kind of came under my radar because the singer-songwriter Julie Byrne collaborated with him on this song called Love's a Refrain, which a version of ended up on her album last year. Really good. Aside from the vibe I kind of described, it's kind of this, hazy, sun-blasted, worn-out feeling. Summer's starting. It's a short listen. He's got other music that's great too, I've been listening to lately. But yeah, I'm going to plug this. It's called In Summer. It's on streaming by Jeffrey Cantu Ledesma. Sorry if I got that wrong, bro. I think that's your name.
Mine is one people will probably be familiar with, but I was just thinking of like since we're talking Tomboy today, I was thinking of like other records from guys in bands who sort of struck out solo. So my choice is Logos by Atlas Sound. It's the solo project of Bradford Cox from Deer Hunter.
Nice.
Another classic early aughts indie rock band.
This is peak blog rock.
Yeah. And super into Deer Hunter at this time. Yeah, this solo record of his is really great, really fun to revisit. Came out in October 2009, so right around Fall Be Kind time. Panda Bear is also on the record. He's got that great track with Bradford Cox, Walkabout, which is just a delightful little, very Beach Boys-esque kind of tune. Other highlights from the record are the song that features Letitia Sadier. I'm butchering that probably, but the lady from Stereolab.
She's awesome.
Sings on that awesome track, Quick Canal. There's other bangers on there like Shelia.
Atlas Sound, man, this album, it's like his psychedelic pop kind of record. I love this one. Yeah, it's
his first big solo record. He had one before that was a bit more under the radar, a bit more kind of collage-y. It's like, let the blind lead those who can see but cannot feel, or something like that. But yeah, this one's definitely a step up for a Bradford solo stuff.
I did see him perform this in full at Desert Days in 2019, and Noah came out.
Oh wow, he did Logos in full?
He did Logos in full.
That was a 10-year kind of.
That was the gig.
Oh,
yeah, it was
wow.
it was a 10-year anniversary, because Stereolab and the Animal Collective guys were there performing, and so
that's sick.
The chick from Stereolab came out and Noah came out, and it was fun.
That's awesome.
It was cool. I love Bradford. I miss him. I miss
Me
Bradford.
too.
It's been a while.
Yeah, he's been off the grid lately, but we love you, bud.
Come back
whenever. Sick. Well, without further ado, let's hop on over to our conversation with Ian Grant from Jokermen about Tomboy.
It's good. It's good stuff. All right, cool. So, Ian, are you like a Panda Bear guy as a fan, or where are you coming from in terms of
I mean,
the Animal Collective universe?
If you got to pick one in the crew, I'm probably I'd probably take Noah above all. I don't know if you guys are ever going to have the deacon guy come on the pod.
We have.
You had
deacon heads come through.
Oh, dude, we did a Oops All Deacon episode with Deacon.
Well, Deacon, that's one thing, but like the Deacon head, the people who are coming through saying, oh yeah, Deacon, it's Deacon 1 for me, then it's geologist, and then
they're out there.
And Panda Bear.
They're out there.
At the bottom.
They're out there.
Are they?
They're out there. A lot of people, especially like the more recent Animal Collective records, there's a significant chunk of the fandom where their top track of each record is the one Deacon track. So
Interesting. Yeah, no, but I mean, I guess of the crew, it's probably Noah for me. I came through, early. Well, not early. I guess it depends on how you look at it. Like I was certainly not around in the Here Come the Indian days. But like Fields Strawberry Jam is where I hopped on board. So I was able to kind of work up to Merriweather and kind of, ride that wave after already being pretty stoked on the big hitters, Sung Tongs and Person Pitch and Strawberry and Fields. And then Tomboy was really kind of that whole indie scene / indie sphere seemed to crest at that moment in time, like 2010 into 2011. And Tomboy was kind of the way I remember it, at least, like the sun at the center of that universe, that, kind of the massive object around which all of these other records and crews and scenes were orbiting. Because it took forever to come out, and it was such a protracted drop, and it was so highly anticipated.
I know.
It was just, looking back on it, it was never going to be able to live up to all the expectations that were loaded onto it. But it was a fun journey. It was about the journey, not the destination.
Oh yeah. I mean, this was like the peak of my Animal Collective fandom for sure. And Ian, like what you were saying about this being a crest like 2011, I agree. I feel like after this, it kind of things started to change. I mean, I think this was like the last year before Spotify, right? I think Spotify came to America in 2012.
Yeah.
But we could paint a little scene for people. So yeah, maybe in early 2011, you were checking Hipster Runoff or Altered Zones or Gorilla vs. Bear, and you were
GVB for sure.
GVB, and you were downloading MP3s like the second they dropped. Maybe you were getting sick of Obama. The recession was kind of tough on all of us.
Were you a Pirate Bay guy, Justin and Ian? Or?
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
I was not. I can never figure out the torrents, to be honest. I had a couple go-to leak websites. I don't know if you guys ever went to like nodata.tv or newalbumreleases.net, but they would just post would post records.
Really know what you're getting there. It's right on the tin.
Yeah. It's honestly, I pulled, I got this shit from I was in like forums before social media even went out. So these weird internet freaks introduced me to that type of shit. But they would just post like a Rapid Gator link, and you'd have to download it at 70 kilobytes. So it would take
MediaFire.
MediaFire was great because MediaFire went fast as hell and it was free and you were good. But usually it was like Rapid Gator or Mega Upload, and it just took like 9 hours for the free version of the download to come through. But I digress. You were painting a picture for us, Justin.
I love it. So like kind of in the middle of all that, you had, like you were saying, the build up to the Person Pitch follow up. And
and we should say we were both Merriweather babies. That's how we came into the fold.
Babies.
Right. I heard you guys talking about that on the Merriweather episode.
So this was all very, very exciting to me. I mean, this was some of the first like in real time Animal Collective records that I experienced.
Sure.
Tomboy came out April 9th, 2011. Do you guys want to guess what the number one album was that week on the Billboard Top 100?
2011 in April.
Early Q1 2011.
Kesha.
Close.
Katy Perry. No. Katy Perry. Teenage Dream.
Close. No, it's a guy. It's a dude.
Bieber?
No.
Timberlake.
No. Chris Brown.
Oh, well, had the Rihanna thing hadn't happened yet.
Yeah, exactly. But then we get Tomboy, this vast and shimmering album. Yeah, to me, I still kind of I lumped this into the Merriweather era because of like the high gloss production and the sort of like big beats and the reverb. I don't know if you guys do, but to me, this is still in the universe, I think.
I think if, we just did Person Pitch, and so we've been thinking of that in Merriweather not too long ago, but I sort of think of Person Pitch and Tomboy as kind of like the bookends of like the Merriweather era. Like in terms of with Person Pitch, it's kind of like the introducing of this sampling technique, like combining that into live performance. And Merriweather obviously incorporates that kind of sampling technique and expands upon it, in the band context. And then with Tomboy, you have this sort of return a little bit to like a live performance style, with he has like the electric guitar and he's playing through the crazy synth and stuff and has these beats. Mm-hmm. And there are samples in Tomboy, sprinkled here and there, but it seems to be sort of, by Centipede, they're more adornments than like really chunks of the song structure.
There's not a lot. There's not a lot of samples this time around, which is cool. It's a bit of a shift.
Definitely.
All that to say, he's definitely like this. I would consider he's sort of in his zenith period in terms of just creativity overflow, and it sounds like he was working on a lot of these songs kind of simultaneously with Merriweather too. But
that doesn't surprise me. Well, I know like when this album came out, they went on tour to debut the Centipede Hurts material, so that was really exciting. That was like I was listening to like 2 bootlegs and then the album and. I mean, what else can we say before we get into track by track? I mean, I don't understand like any of the lyrics really, and I'm okay with that.
Oh, really? Interesting.
There are some lines I know, but
I feel like it's one of his more
really. I just feel like
it's definitely layered.
Oh yeah, I mean,
definitely like very thick. Like there's a very like choral kind of like monastic quality to the singing. On this record, it's like very long held out notes, and obviously there's like the cathedral reverb on everything, but I don't know. To be fair, I have been listening to I have the lyrics here in the expanded edition.
I was just gonna say, I got the record. I got the regular old version of the record here, and it doesn't. Nice. It doesn't got shit in it. It's like
really?
a sleeve with some special thanks and like some production credits, and like that's it. No lyrics, no nothing.
Yeah, baby, we've got lyrics. We've got special artwork.
Very nice.
Yeah, I definitely pre-ordered this. I was so hyped for it. All for it to finally arrive, so I could play it on my Crosley turntable from like Urban Outfitters.
Urban Outfitters suitcase turntable.
Exactly.
Yeah, the like plastic needle that's actively scratching the record as you play it.
Just sitting on my chair, like stroking my chin. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
No, it came with the MP3 download, so it's got it on the iPhone. But yeah, I don't know. I think I guess I just brought that up, Justin, because I think of like Panda Bear with Person Pitch, obviously, since it was his first record to have like actual lyrics after Young Prayer. But then, especially with this one, he distinguishes himself from Animal Collective in a lot of ways. But I feel like lyrically is like a big way that he does that. Like it's really less kind of abstract psychedelic stories and more like, I don't know, very sort of personal, direct lyrics that are, I don't know, even if you don't like...
You can count on me,
Yeah. There's definitely some, though, that like reading the lyrics, I mistook at first. I had interpreted in some way hearing them, but actually discovered it's a different thing. But yeah, anyway, you can keep rocking with your point. It was sort of a tangent.
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, I think that's what's cool. It's like, they're singing in English or he's singing in English, but it still doesn't sound like English sometimes, to my brain anyway. Like slow motion is kind of like that daily routine. But I love the approach. I love like the focus of guitar, like a triangle, like vocals, guitar, and these heavy beats. I think he was saying like Dave Grohl's drumming was an inspiration. But it's like his weird warped version of almost like a stadium rock album. But like these beats just sound amazing. Like they're like should be played in like a soccer stadium or something.
It's a very heavy, heady record. I think it's interesting to hear you guys like go back and forth on the lyrics stuff, because I think I'm definitely more in Justin's camp here. Animal Collective is like not a lyrics band, or, anyone, in the Animal Collective universe is not a lyrics type of thing for me. Not to say that there aren't, interesting snatches of language that come through. Right. And certainly on a record like, Merriweather, or, even on Strawberry Jam at some points, forever and green. I understand those words. But, more often than not, it's, the language is more textural. And maybe that comes out of, literally something like Sung Tongs, where the language is deployed really in a textual kind of manner, as opposed to trying to make literal physical sense, words on a page wise. Even though, again, there are opportunities or situations where they do that, even on that record. But, on Tomboy, it is, you can make out what he's saying more so than on Person Pitch, for instance, generally speaking. But even as legible as any of the lines and language might be on this record, it's not something that I'm like tapped into on a message, poetic level, the way that I am with, Bob Dylan, for instance.
No, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I do think they actually don't get enough credit for their lyrics. I don't think Tomboy's an example of that, but because they have such an kind of overwhelming approach to pure sound, the lyrics will take a back seat. But, no, I hear you. Yeah. And there's like, you got just like these vocals like sound like they're layered 100 times, and it's just like such a rich tapestry that it's like it doesn't even matter what he's saying.
And I think you mentioning Sung Tongs and how the language and singing is deployed in that, I do think it is like he's sort of thinking like rhythm first with a lot of these melodies and stuff. And when I think of the lyrics on this album, it's like maybe a couple per song that really stick out. And often too, it is like the melodic information in those words that make them more powerful than just the text. Like if you read the text, you're like, okay, cool. But I do think he definitely thinks rhythmically when he sings. And I mean, he is, the drummer of the band. I think he is sort of kind of rhythm first, has a rhythm first instincts. But yeah, Justin, what you said about them like, it sounds like almost a different language at times. I think the way he plays with rhythm, it's like, it affects how he like emphasizes some of the words, and like puts kind of weird emphasis that makes it sound like sort of a different language at times. Like, Last Night at the Jetty comes to mind when he just sings like, I know over again, but it's like mixing up the emphasis and like hitting different notes. And it's sort of this way of making his lyrics and language feel like a little more elastic, I suppose. But definitely it sounds certainly smeared and a little cloudy, which seems like maybe has to do with a lot of like Sonic Boom's influence on the production. I don't know if we like want to get to that or.
Yeah, we could talk about, I mean, there's definitely, I think, a Spacemen 3 vibe in this album. The minimalism and the droning kind of guitars is very Spacemen 3, Sonic Boom. And I think he mixed this one, right? I think Pete Kember mixed this album.
I think he came in, from what I understand, he came in like not after the fact necessarily, but like, sort of after Noah had kind of cracked the record and the songs had been sketched out, and he had some working, some working drafts, at least, of what this record was supposed to sound like and feel like, as opposed to like Panda Bear versus the Grim Reaper, where I think Kimber was like kind of in on the ground floor on that one. And obviously since then they've been very close collaborators.
Totally. I wonder why, that's why like there's single mixes and they sound different. Because Christian and I were listening to the single mixes and I was like, the mixes sound like muffled, like not only like are there different like tracks mixed in, it sounds like, but the mix just sounds weird to me. Yeah. Right? Doesn't it? Like, maybe that's the difference is him, maybe. I don't know.
I think that you could be onto something there. The single mixes, it cannot be. I don't know if everyone listening to this is like aware of this, but it cannot be overstated how fucking weird and protracted this album rollout was. It took like a year for the record to actually hit, and after the time it took years, plural. And then in the run up to it, when we finally started getting some shred of music from this shit, it wasn't just, it wasn't like here's the first single, here's the second single, then here's the record. It was like, it took almost the course of a year, and he was dropping individual 7-inch singles on different labels. Right. They were double A-side singles. And there were like 4 of them. And then by the time you get to the actual record a year later, the songs are on the actual record, but they sound totally different than they did on the singles.
That was immediately apparent and definitely a surprise to me when I heard it. To you guys too, right? Like, I think to everyone.
I think that definitely impacted like how this record landed. Yeah, it was. I'm very curious to the lore as to why this is all the case. You know what I mean?
Well, I'll say that part of that, I think, for me, it was this album, it was a grower for me. Immediately, it did not hit right away, and maybe it's because he put a bit of a bait and switch. And I also was very tied to the live shows. Like, I played the shit out of the Tomboy era live sets before the album came out. So I had demo-itis for sure, or live-itis, whatever you want to call it.
YouTube-itis?
YouTube-itis, yeah. Anything else y'all want to say before we
I've got a quick relevant quote from Noah, sort of about the kind of how he's been treating like the handoff for the mixing and mastering on the records. He says, quote, "The last 3 records I've gotten really into having someone or a group of people take the last steps with the record, mixing and mastering it, sort of being a filter on it. With Young Prayer, it was Rusty Santos and the other guys from Animal Collective. With Person Pitch, it was just Rusty, and for this one, it was Sonic Boom. He brought in this old reverb multi-delay thing and slapped it on every song. Not every song had the same settings, but they all have this sort of atmosphere around the vocals. It totally finished the record for me and brought everything together." So yeah, maybe there was like, as he was putting out the singles, there was some element of dissatisfaction, or just he wanted to tinker more, or there was some missing X factor. Although with Person Pitch, he did do a similar thing where it was like a long rollout, lots of singles, you know. So it's maybe
just like how rolls. He loves like club music, electronic music. That's how they kind of roll in that environment. They're big on singles and stuff. And I think some of the singles, or at least one of them for Tomboy, was on Compact, that German label that Noah really loved growing up.
Surfer's Hymn, baby. Techno.
Nice.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, nice. There's like the Actress remixes on that, I think.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Why do say techno?
Yeah,
bizarre.
And so I think that's part of the rollout, maybe too.
It is sort of a cool way to think about making an album. Like, if you think about, I'm going to put out double A sides, then when I have enough, it's a record. I mean, it does make for like a, pretty solid, no filler record, but yeah, it's long ass album rollout.
Yeah, exactly. Wouldn't happen like that these days.
You Can Count on Me. Wow. Noah coming in on a cloud to save the world.
To save the youth.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I don't want to say cringe.
Whoa.
It's like I got to be careful.
It's tender. Hey, it's a tender one.
I won't say cringe. It's tender. It's, I'm going to stop there.
It's a little lullaby, It isn't.
Yeah.
It's not coming in hot. It is coming in tender. And yeah, I think it asks you to open up your heart a little bit right off the bat, which is an interesting maybe choice for an opener. I do like how this song has this sort of like palindromic structure, if you will, like the sort of the melody. No, you can't count on me. Like, it kind of goes up, comes down in a similar way. The beat is like boom, boom, clap, clap, boom, boom. There's this sort of, I don't know.
It's almost like the We Will Rock You beat almost.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's not only like primal, but like there's an innocence sort of to it, I guess. But so apart from the beat and the guitar, I guess the vocal samples that you hear in this song are from the film Jerry Maguire, which
that's funny.
I didn't realize until I looked it up on who sampled earlier. But yeah, there's like that first one is like Renee Zellweger saying like, he's a great guy. He's a great guy.
On the surface, everything looks fine. I've got this great guy. And he loves my kid.
and it's like, I think just like pitched down a little bit and like doubled. But yeah, I don't know if he was just had a moment one night while he was mixing the song and had it on in the background or something like that. But yeah, I thought that was a interesting piece of lore. This is the track you did the Fallon performance with.
No, I love that Fallon performance with the little intro.
Yeah, bold to do your TV debut and have a 2-minute just like drone intro of like.
That's true. You never really see that on live television.
Yeah, it was vibey. Sounds great too. Like that guitar through that crazy synth, which is like, yeah, one of his main methods for this record.
It's very funny that Panda Bear was on Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah. Afterwards, Jimmy Fallon was like, all right, let's hear it for Panda Bear. Like, he was like, what the fuck was that?
Was that Tonight Show era Fallon, or was that before he snaked Conan out of the gig?
I don't know,
man. I don't remember.
This was right around that time. Doesn't matter. Who cares? But whether it was the Tonight Show or the late night, it's ridiculous that Panda Bear would be on fucking Jimmy Fallon.
Yeah, and Sonic Boom's got like 18 synths on stage, and he's like,
right.
It's like the era of Fallon where for the musical performances they had like part of the crowd like on stage, like behind them and like on the sides, sort of.
Sure. Yeah, I remember watching a couple, seeing a couple like that.
What do you think of this one as an opener, Ian? What are your feelings around this tender?
It's it's interesting. It's definitely a sea change from where we last left him. Whether you're looking at it from solo records, with Person Pitch, or from the last Animal Collective record, which was Merryweather 2 years before this. It's a very kind of I think it suits kind of the imagery and the design of this record very well. It's a very stark, Spartan kind of presentation.
Yeah,
it seems to me like a clear reaction against the like trippy stoner purple green bean cover of Merryweather.
Yeah, psychedelic green
this is
beans.
just all. Yeah, this is just all like black and white, neo-noir kind of a feeling here. And you get a little bit of that in the music, too. It's all of the sequencers and samplers and kind of whirring lights and flashing sounds that you get on In the Flowers, for instance. We're as far away from that as you're going to get here. It's an effective opener and short and kind of, scene setting. It's less a song than it is sort of like a mood piece or like a, motif kind of for the rest of the record that we're about to get into.
Yeah, I could hear this one as the first song or the last song on the album.
Yeah, I think this and Benfica, I think that's the name of a soccer team or something. I think the two of them bookend the record together very nicely.
Yeah, totally.
Agree.
I mean, I remember when I first heard this album, I think it was like NPR did a first listen or something, and I was really surprised with how high up the vocals were, and that could have been just because I was listening to a lot of live sets, but the vocals just seemed very, very prominently mixed up, and like it sounds like there's like 100 takes mixed in together.
Yeah, it sounds really
good. It took
good.
a little time for me to get it sounded amazing. For me, it took a little time to get used to, I think, but
the live version or the record version
the record version.
Oh yeah.
I think that the record version. But no, it's beautiful.
I don't think I realized at the time, and coming back to it now, I can't say I've been listening to Tomboy with much frequency, up until obviously we decided we were going to do this, and then I dove back in. But I don't think I realized how kind of different it sounded at the time from what I was used to from him. Because vocally, you're totally right. He's up in the mix. It sounds like a rock record in many ways. In ways that Animal Collective records and certainly Person Pitch did not at this point. Yep. And I really dig that. I love all the shit from this era, but kind of where I'm at right now. I've kind of gone back to basics in my listening habits and lifestyle. And so the kind of just like straightforward, direct, like, let's make a rock record. It's guitars, it's bass, it's some sort of percussion, whether or not it's a drum machine or a live kit. And let's sing into the microphone like a lead singer.
Yeah.
And then obviously throw some synthesizers and delay pedals and shit on there. But it's, it's not too complicated. So, again, compared to like Merriweather,
Totally.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely more minimal.
Yeah, it's his rock. I think of it as sort of his rock record for sure. Like, I think even the stark imagery, when Justin was over the other night, I was like, I think of this record as like black and white or like, just
duophonic. Black and white also.
Duophonic. And I was like, is that just because the artwork? But like, no, it is like a stripped Spartan, sort of approach.
I mean, that like grayscale stark, album cover. I mean, I think that theme was from the beginning with the singles too, right? So maybe that's why I started associating the music as kind of this.
Yeah, and it's literally
bright,
a woman crying.
Minimal.
It's like, oh, you like My Girls? You like summertime clothes? She's crying. She's sad. Like.
I think it was a canny move on his part, to be honest, because Animal Collective had definitely developed at this point, sort of they weren't pop necessarily, but I remember like 2011 they were like second line Coachella. I was at that show or at that festival. I think they played Saturday night, like the second. They weren't the headliner, but they were the second to last act on the main stage before like Arcade Fire or something. Mm-hmm. And, this huge fucking crowd. Uh-huh. And I, friends of mine, that I went to high school and was hanging around with at the time who weren't music heads by any means were like, into Animal Collective because it was just like cool, trippy, stoner kind of music. And you could also kind of nod and bop along to it when they went sort of electronic at that point. And so this seems like kind of not like a fuck you to those people necessarily, but like a canny move reaction against getting pigeonholed. And obviously they end up going on to do that as Animal Collective with Centipede Hurts and everything they've done since then. But I can't help but think of this record in relation to just like what had come before it, not only in terms of the music, but in terms of like the cultural path that they had unexpectedly charted over the previous, whatever it was, 5, 6, 7 years.
Exactly. Like this isn't the kind of whoa Technicolor vibe.
Yeah. I also think, speaking of coming from record to record, it's like we talked about Person Pitch recently as like the record that sold, 1,000 Roland samplers, like 404. So he became this icon of like sampler music. And then his next record, after Merriweather 2 is like, I think of it in some ways as like you could view it as sort of a flex move, being like, oh, you thought I just played push buttons on a sampler? Yeah. I'm going to like play guitar and make beats and like sing all at the same time, sort of. And
one man band.
But yeah, that's definitely something that's true of this band, throughout their career, is like each new thing is, in some ways it's always in the light and in the context of the previous thing, and is often like a pretty hard left turn.
For sure.
Here's one more quote I had found. It was about his vocals in the mix. Oh yeah. This was from Interview magazine. He says, on the last one, meaning Person Pitch, felt like my voice was sort of this thing floating around in the middle of all this stuff, like it was a soup or in the water or something. For this one, I wanted to bring the rhythms and guitar out of the mix to be featured rather than just floating in with the mix and all this other stuff. But because of the way I write words and the way I pronounce things to hit certain rhythmic points, often the words can come out kind of blurred or difficult to understand.
Mm-hmm.
Tomboy is just like, it's like shinier. It seems like a multi-dimensional more so than, say, Person Pitch. Like to me, as much as I love Person Pitch, it's kind of like soupy and flat, like because of the lo-fi quality a little bit. But Tomboy,
it has like an artifact quality.
Yeah. It's very busy, there's still a lot going on on this album, but the mixing and the quality of the recording is just so amazing, that there's room for everything. And it still sounds kind of like, it sounds like minimal and then like also kind of packed in at the same time sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, it's got so much bottom end. I mean, you definitely, when you think of Person Pitch, it has low end, but you don't, coming in like this next track, Tomboy, comes in with these, fucking thumping ass guns blasting, beat, is definitely like, big left turn from Person Pitch. This is such a funny, like the beginning of this song, and I don't remember to what extent some of this was on the single versus the album version, but the way he like beat drops, we hear these weird, you know, alien kind of gurgling sounds, and then like the fill into the guitar line is like this massive like rapid sawing sound, like I just always thought that was,
I love it.
Such a bizarre choice.
So cool.
Yeah, like,
yeah. So left field.
yeah, this is probably the most guitar-y sounding song on the record. And he's playing guitar on all the songs, but it's pretty masked a lot of the time. This one definitely is like maybe the most rockin' in the traditional sense.
Yeah.
Guitar forward for sure. That synthesizer, whatever it is, organ that comes in like 10, 15 seconds into the song after the first couple bars of guitar, that wasn't on the single mix.
Right, yeah.
I remember that vividly because I went to this, they did a listening party for Tomboy like a month before it came out in Los Angeles at this like Mexican restaurant on Sunset Boulevard that I'm sure is not there anymore.
Wow.
And you know, I listened to all these singles a million times leading up to the record. And so, you know, I went to listening party being like, all right, you know, I've heard 7-8 songs off this record already. I kind of know what I'm getting into, but it's going to be fun to just, you know, hear the whole thing from front to back. And then, you know, you get a little bit of that with You Can Count on Me, which was another early single. And I think that the mix on the single is different than you get on the record. But I vividly remember hearing that buzzsaw synthesizer for the first time on Tomboy, you know, the title track here, and being like, oh shit, he's done some different shit with this record at this point.
Yeah.
That's like the like
he hasn't been sitting on his
kind of
ass.
difference. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I had that same thing. That specific synth line when it comes in like sticks out to me as a memory of like, oh yeah, they were not just tinkering with the mix. They were literally like, adding more shit. And yeah, I don't know.
And it is still the same song beneath that, you know.
Right.
I think to me, it sounds like the same vocal tracks, the same, you know, guitar lines and stuff. But just, you know, the way that they flesh it out, you know, presumably the way that Pete Kimber fleshed it out is like, man, he knew what he was doing.
Absolutely. Had the same thought when I first heard this song as well. And yeah, I think people might have forgotten how much these songs kind of changed by the time the record came out, which is really cool. It was worth the wait.
Yeah, I think it's like when I first heard that synth line, I was like, okay. But then over time, it, you know, becomes just that song to you. So going back and listening to those single versions for me, I was like, oh yeah, like that stuff was all absent. Yeah, definitely a triumphant track here. I love that no matter what it takes. You know, that's what I mean when it's like I don't know all the lyrics to these tracks, but there's a couple in each song that really, you know, kind of like stand out.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's a great example of like where the lyrics come through, and even if you're not actively paying attention, like you can't help but understand what he's saying, you know, at that moment. And like that's, you know, I think that's the way to do it, or, you know, the way to appreciate it, for me at least, is like, you know, when the lyrics peek out from beneath the clouds and present themselves to you, these specific lines, like, oh, you know, that's something I can latch on to there. That's significant to me. But, you know, I can't say that I've ever really known any of the other words that he's saying in this song. I know he doesn't say tomboy in this song. And I can't say, but at the same time, like I not knowing what he's saying in the song besides that doesn't mean that I, you know, appreciate it any less.
Totally. Yeah. I know what you mean. And that seems to be pretty in line with their philosophy. Like they rarely include lyrics with their records. I think they've only done it a handful of times. And yeah, as I said earlier, I think he's definitely a melody rhythm first thinker, but yeah, I love the way you put that, like shining out from behind the clouds. That's exactly how that line feels when he sings it. Slow motion.
Banger.
Yeah, this one we get a little preview of what's to come in Panda Bear versus Grim Reaper with the whole like sort of break
beats.
Yeah, this is definitely a banger. One of the highlights from the record. That beat is a sample of a track called Impeach the President, Impeach Joe Brandon, by the Honey Drippers.
Oh, wow.
They just got back from Washington, D.C. I think they got something they want to say.
And it's actually a sort of different beat. He pitches it down, and it's slowed down, and it's cut to be like a different meter. The original track is in 4/4, but he cuts it to be in whatever. I think it's like 6/8 or something. But yeah, really, really dig this track. Another single distinction is Pete Kember, I assume, added those crazy like spring reverb blasts in the beginning.
Yeah, that's another totally. Yeah, that's totally another thing that's not there on the, because I think Slow Motion was the other side of the first single of the Tomboy single.
Yep.
And yeah, that like kind of bursting, like it almost sounds like a fucking pool balls being broke. When you hit them with the cue ball at the beginning.
Yeah.
Echoed through 10,000 reverb pedals. But that was another just like shit.
Balls. Yeah.
This is sick.
Yeah, this track rules. The beat is definitely like a hip hop beat, but also like the singing, I feel like he's almost like, in hip hop, like there's like a hype man. I feel like he's doing hype man shit the whole time. and it sounds so cool. Like he's just like, what counts? And like saying all these different lines.
There's like a swag to this track.
I love it.
Some Panda swag.
Yeah, exactly.
It's got a little more, I want to say hip hop flavor. That sounds wrong, perhaps, but like,
I feel you.
Like I think you guys ever listen to like Liquid Swords much?
Yeah.
Like the kind of like semi lo-fi, like stripped down
Dusty,
post Wu-Tang type shit.
Yeah.
But very very beat heavy, very rhythmic, and just kind of going with the flow type thing. I get some of that feeling from a song like Slow Motion. It pops up on a couple other songs on this record too. But it's a fun kind of back and forth between like Tomboy the song, which is this quote unquote rock song. Guitars, drums, bass, and vocals, and then a song like this that is much more, like I said, to me is as close to hip hop as he ever goes.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I think this song's a good example of how he uses like repetition well. Like it's definitely got like a sort of hypnotic, like swirling quality. I like the lyrics on this one. I really like how he sort of like flips those, common idioms or whatever of like, so they say have an apple a day, so they say better safe than sorry. Like it sort of reminds me of like one of the Person Pitch lines where he says like sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me. Like it's sort of I don't know. Feels
do unto others as you would have others do unto you.
Yeah. Make new friends and keep the old.
He's such a good boy.
Biggest lessons from kindergarten.
Hey, those are the ones you don't forget.
Yeah, it's fun. I don't know that I've ever understood a single word that he says in this song.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Because he doesn't say, I'm looking at the Genius page right now. I don't think he says slow motion. He does say slow, I guess. And when I slow it down, but but if you asked me, yesterday, what does he say in the song? I would have said he says slow motion. It's called slow motion. I guess he doesn't actually say
slow motion, slow motion. That's funny.
All I can pick out is, does he say what counts? Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Does he say like what counts?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I know.
Yeah, I do think some of his lyrics definitely have like a mantra-like quality to me.
Yeah.
Alrighty, that's it for part one. If you want to keep listening to the second half of our Tomboy discussion with Ian, head on over to patreon.com/bonefishpod. You can find the entire uncut episode there, as well as other exclusive episodes we've done on albums like Person Pitch, Strawberry Jam, and more, all for just $5 a month. And a massive thank you to those of you who have already joined us over there. We're also on Instagram at Bonefish Pod if you just want to follow along. There's also other ways to support us. Tell a friend, rate and review. All that stuff helps. Also, huge thanks to Ian Grant from Jokermen for joining us. Obviously, check out his excellent podcast. The recent Beach Boys stuff has been great, as is all of their content. And yeah, until next time, take it easy.
Bonefish.